What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Kramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crossover Commerce presented by PingPong Payments. I'm Ryan Kramer, and welcome to episode 79 of this lovely show that I have deemed Crossover Commerce presented by PingPong Payments. Before we get started on today's episode, let me tell you a little bit about PingPong Payments. We are a marketplace. We provide marketplace sellers and entrepreneurs global solutions for controlling their domestic and international funds, both outbound and inbound. An account with PingPong enables companies to significantly reduce their costs when receiving or making international payments all in one platform to help increase operational efficiencies, saves time, and also saves money. Why wouldn't you want to sign up today? Go ahead and check out PingPong Payments in the link below. Go ahead and sign up for free today and get your first month of FX for free from PingPong Payments. Go ahead and check out that link below if you haven't already signed up today. Otherwise, if you are joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter, welcome. I appreciate you joining this episode of Crossover Commerce. If this is your first time or your 79th time, welcome aboard. We love to have you here. If you happen to be watching this not live, but on Team Replay, again, welcome and thanks for spending some time to understand and listen to Crossover Commerce. We love having you here. About this show, my job is to bring you insights and expertise in the e-commerce and Amazon fields, and that is what I do every single time I go live. I go live about 4 to 5 times per week, which is a lot of content to bring to you, the Amazon or e-commerce seller, just to give you perspective in the space. No biases, no nothing here. It's just all pure content, and hopefully I will be able to squeeze each guest out to get one piece of nugget that you can apply towards your business starting today. Again, if you aren't watching this live on any of the social media platforms, you can download us on any sort of podcast location, including Amazon, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, you name it. We're going to be there. Just search Crossover Commerce with Ryan Kramer or presented by PingPong Payments. That's how you'll find us. Just check out our logo from there. Again, if you can't catch us live, make sure that you do check out those replay options. And if you are watching us live, go ahead and share, like, and post this content with your network. The more information we can get out there to our audience, the better. Just go ahead and share that right now there on the bottom right-hand corner with your audience and go from there. But about our guest today, it's not just about me. If it was just about me, that would be one hell of a show. But I bring on guests to give you insight and expertise in the field. And this is what this conversation is all about. But about our guest today, coming all the way from Australia, a little bit early. I have to check on the time zone right now, but it's late for us here, early for them. But he is the co-founder and managing director of Merchant Spring. Paul is he started his career as a management consultant and spent many years leading large retail and e-commerce businesses down under in Australia. He lives in Melbourne with his wife, 2 children, and Boston Terrier Kiko, awesome name. And about the business that he helped co-found, Merchant Spring. They are a next-generation analytics platform and business dashboard designed specifically for professional marketplace sellers, full-service and marketplace agencies, FBA investors, you name it. They integrate with Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Shopify, and over 70 other marketplaces to provide clients with the whole of business perspective on commercial and operational performance. Merchant Spring accelerates sales on Amazon and marketplaces such as Amazon by highlighting sales opportunities and operational risks in real time. So we'll get to dive in a little bit about that and just the opportunity to grow in general on different marketplaces all around the world. Well, help me welcome to the show, Paul Sonfeld of Merchant Spring. Paul, welcome to Crossover Commerce. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you for having me on the show. And I noticed you're only 3 shows away from the magical 100, so certainly looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's a couple more. I think what I say 79, maybe. Like it feels a little bit more than that. So, but we're trucking along pretty quickly. Like I blink and we did 30 in season 1, and I've already tomorrow's episode 80. So it just kind of blinks and all this content that we're producing for people, it's fantastic, and I love it.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So you are in Australia. So this is not somebody in my backyard in the United States. This is someone on the complete other side of the world. Happy tomorrow. I guess it's Wednesday there. So
this is what the future looks like. Yeah. You're
that's
looking
amazing.
At the future right here. Yeah.
This is amazing. You have the ability to look into the past. I have the ability to see into the future. So like this is fantastic. We're already breaking barriers today. But so maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I wasn't very familiar with Merchant Spring until you guys kind of found us through our podcast and some of the conversations we were having with Amazon sellers. Tell us about you. Tell us about the company. Like, what's that story of Paul and his team over there in Australia?
Yeah, sure. Look, Australia has really lagged a lot of the other Western markets when it came to marketplaces. So about 4 years ago, we really only had eBay here in Australia. And then Amazon announced they were coming. And that's really spurred a whole sort of evolution of marketplaces. So, Australian sellers and international sellers selling in Australia right now are, have the option of probably, selling on 5 to 6 decent marketplaces and making some pretty good money on that. But with that, I think a whole new industry started. And 3 years ago, we were probably, I don't know if we can claim to be like the first full service marketplace agencies, but we were certainly there at the start, well before even Amazon launched. And to really help Australian brands and sellers take advantage of marketplaces, particularly in the context of, store sales are down, but e-commerce is growing and marketplaces are taking, a bit like everywhere else in the world, up to like 2/3 of the total pie in terms of e-commerce product sales. So we started an agency 3 years ago here in Australia. We still run that agency. It's very much a separate business now. But about 1 year in, we're managing lots of clients across different platforms, across different geographies, and we really hit a real problem around, how do you manage all these clients, right? How do you make sure that even just basic things like Amazon seller health, is in good shape? How to make sure they're getting a good return on their advertising? And the way we solved it initially is just having lots of VAs doing lots of manual checks, and we sort of had a team just checking things like all the time, and like, this is crazy, we've got to stop this. We looked pretty wide in terms of say, look, are there any tools out there that really allows you to manage multiple marketplaces and give insights across a whole portfolio of stores? And we couldn't find any. There's some really awesome, particularly in the Amazon space, there's some awesome tools out there. But they're all based towards the individual seller really selling on one marketplace. There's nothing there that sort of says, right, multiple marketplaces, multiple geographies, multiple stores. So to cut a long story short, Ryan, we just built our own. We hired a couple of developers. We then, raised some funds, and we actually, after using our tool internally, for ourselves for about a year, we then rebuilt it and launched it to the rest of the world. So now, what our Merchant Spring represents is a complete analytics solution, really geared towards, I would say, professional marketplace sellers. You need to be selling across, 2 or 3 marketplaces or more. Otherwise, I don't think we just simply don't add enough value. Or full service marketplace agencies. And we provide them with the unique ability to look at your total portfolio of clients or marketplaces and really get that total business perspective, what's happening across all your marketplaces, and then providing you really with the ability to quickly drill down into each store to understand, what are my sales doing, what's my profit doing, what's my PPC doing, how's my health going, and a whole range of other things. Really allowing people to save substantial time. Just think about how much time most of the listeners are logging onto Seller Central, doing 2-factor authentication, then checking something and then repeating that process, lots and lots of times. In fact, I was talking to one of our, agencies clients in the Netherlands, a really big one. They said to me yesterday that, the person I was talking to is using that tool is saving an hour a day just on basic admin tasks like that. So yeah, that's just a little bit about us.
Awesome. And as everyone knows, that time is the number one commodity you can't get back. So you guys are ultimately saving time, but also just confusion and just insights in general. You can get that all in one place, almost like a ping pong where you can see all your inbound incoming and outgoing money in one platform. So interesting. You said you haven't seen it in any other place around the world. Why do you think that is? Like, if all these tools are important to an e-commerce seller and people who are scaling, do you think that people are just, what's the reason? Why hasn't this been built until you guys?
Look, I think I can think of a couple of them. I think the way the Australian market evolved is a bit different to other markets where, take North America or even Europe. Amazon has been so large that for many, probably for a space of 10, 15 years, depending on the country, growing your Amazon store and a single store in those markets, has been fantastic. And, a lot of sellers have been able to build great businesses out of that. I think in Australia, it was different because Amazon, even today, is still the number 2. So Amazon is not the one platform that's going to give you a massive business. So certainly here in Australia, people are forced to go across multiple marketplaces. And even we're seeing that now in other markets. So obviously, a lot more interest in terms of Walmart in the US. In Europe, we're seeing, Amazon sellers spreading out to other Amazon regions, and when you're managing multiple regions and multiple platforms, it just drives a lot of complexity. So, the need to see your business in a single dashboard, I think it has really grown the last few years. And, arguably it probably didn't exist to the same extent a couple of years ago. Look, the other thing I would add is, integrating, like we integrate with over 80 different marketplaces now, and that is a massive effort in terms of there's a lot of heavy lifting on the technical side there. So I'm not sure we follow the 80. If we follow the 80-20 rule, we probably would have just stick with Amazon, right? But we decided to go broad and make sure we can meet the needs of our clients.
Interesting. So, how many different marketplaces are you supporting? You said 70 plus. Is that still true? That number?
Yeah, it's probably so. We support all of Amazon globally, including Poland and Sweden, markets that have come on recently. We do all of the eBay system, including US Motors for eBay. We then do over 70 or 80 different marketplaces, over 80 other different marketplaces. And these can be small ones like Catch, for example, here in Australia, to Walmart in Mexico, to FNAC in France. There's really a really long list, and we're always working on more. So typically, we're always working on 1 or 2. So right now, we're about to launch Wish, the global connector for Wish. We're about to launch Cdiscount, which is a very popular option for international sellers in France. And we're looking to get started on Etsy and WooCommerce in the next month or so.
Awesome. Yeah, all fantastic ones that we support here on our end. So in that capacity, if you're supporting all those different marketplaces, like you said, and you and I know, but if people are listening to this and they're saying, why is there so many different marketplaces? I didn't know 70 existed. What's a marketplace to you? Is it a country? Is it a platform? Is it a location? What is a platform definition for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I'm probably, let me just tighten that up a little bit. For us, we look at marketplaces as the, I guess, more of the traditional interpretation, right? Where an e-commerce player or a presence provide the online platform for you to actually sell things. So you are the merchant of record. So, Amazon, eBay, it's very much those guys. I did mention Shopify and WooCommerce there. Probably gets a little bit confusing. Just, I want to clarify, we don't consider those to be marketplaces, but we like to link them into our tool because our customer are asking us, you're connecting to eBay, Amazon, Walmart, and all of that. That's great. But if I could only connect my Shopify store or my WooCommerce store as well, then I have the whole picture. And what they're really interested in is seeing their total business performance. So hence, we're starting to build out a couple of CMS connectors too.
Interesting. So if I'm using you guys, I'm going to use you to holistically look at all my efforts that I can in all these different marketplaces. If I'm selling in Canada, Mexico, Australia, is there a place that you guys aren't operating under that is definitely needed in terms of either country or marketplace? I know you mentioned a couple earlier, but is there a glaring one in your mind that's just really difficult to get into?
From a seller point of view, that's what you're asking?
Yeah, from a seller point of view.
Yeah. Look, a lot of things come to mind. I mean, I find the whole marketplace arena really a fascinating space, right? Certainly the sort of speed bumps that we see at the moment. Let me just give you some examples, right? One has just been removed, right? So we're seeing a lot of interest from European sellers, from from Australian sellers to want to go into Walmart, right, in the US. They've already got their Amazon. It makes sense, right? You already got your Amazon store. You've already done a lot of the legwork around content. You probably have a 3PL in the US, and going on Amazon is great. But up until recently, it's been really, really tough. You really have to prove that you're a US-based seller, that your product has meaning to US sellers, and a couple of other technical requirements. They've just announced that they're removing that, and they're really focusing on international, expansion. In fact, I know they're focusing pretty big on China as well. So that one's removed. The other one is perhaps something you don't tend to hear about a lot, but there are some really amazing marketplaces in Southeast Asia. So the two ones that maybe your listeners are less familiar with, but I think really interesting, in terms of first points of entry, are places like Shopee and Lazada, right? Mm-hmm. For those sellers who've never heard of them, Lazada is a little bit like, it started by Rocket Internet many years ago, a little bit like the copycat of Amazon. So if you're familiar with Amazon, actually, when you trade on Lazada, it will, a lot of things will look familiar to you. But what is great about Lazada and Shopee is that they cover 6 or 7 different countries in Southeast Asia. So again, allows you to access those markets quite easily. The challenge, of course, that you have, and same, you see that in Europe as well, is some local language requirements, right? So Singapore, Malaysia, English is absolutely fine, but as soon as you get into Thailand, and some other really, like Indonesia is a massive market, right? Absolutely massive. Of course, local language translation becomes really, really important, and obviously then it becomes key to engage with a local partner to do some of that translation and keyword optimization and the like.
Absolutely. So where's a lot of the growth happening? Like, you guys have all this data and analytics. You see where people are putting more of their eggs in basket. I personally tell people, hey, listen, we learned in 2020 a couple things. Sourcing logistics is king, and if you don't have that down pat, you're going to suffer as a seller. 2 is that there's other opportunities outside of just Amazon, because if you're solely selling on Amazon and they shut you down, there's a listing problem, they just shut you down for product reasons. There's 100 different things that could potentially go wrong, and then your source of income is out the door, out the window, your business is kaput. So what we've been telling people on the show constantly over the course of its inception is diversify. That's in different countries, different locations, marketplaces. Where's the growth happening? Where are you telling people start in .com? I'm assuming that's where you tell people to start, .com.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, it's interesting. We don't always start, when you say .com, you're talking about their own website, right?
I say Amazon.com. That's my fault. So I say start on Amazon.
I absolutely agree with you on that. It depends a bit on your starting point, but certainly if you're an existing Amazon seller, right, and you've done all the hard work and you've done brand registry and all those things, for sure it's easier to think about other Amazon ecosystems. I think within that, I think it's really important not to get, let's face it, Amazon does an amazing job at marketing whenever they launch in a new country, right? And it's also tempting to say, oh, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. I think Poland and Sweden, even the Netherlands are a good example, and even Australia to some extent. It takes, even though Amazon is a phenomenal business, there's a reality of it does take a number of years to hit sort of that critical mass. So that's hard. So if you are, say, if you're selling in the US and you're an established Amazon seller, the question is what Amazon ecosystem do you go next? I would certainly, the first point I would say, think about Europe. Of course, the UK is the obvious question, very little translation to do, a bit of optimization, that's that. Outside of that, because of Brexit and all that, the pan-European fulfillment piece isn't really working as well as it used to be. Outside of that, I think your next point of call is say, setting up in Germany. Germany is an absolutely massive market. Set that up as your base. Yes, you're going to have to do some translation. And from there, start adding some of the other big markets, France, Italy, Spain, right? Those are the 4. Look, to be honest, the Netherlands, Sweden, Poland, like they're kind of nice to have. So, I wouldn't necessarily focus on that. If you then take a zoom out and you go, right, where else on Amazon makes sense? Look, India right now is absolutely booming, right? If you look at what Amazon has done there versus their local competitors like Flipkart and all that, they've had like 2 or arguably 3 goes of this, but they are definitely smashing it right now. And if you think about the population there, there's so much upside there. It's really, really interesting. Now, getting into Amazon India is a lot trickier, around incorporation and needing to be on the ground. So there is some hurdles there, but if you can overcome that, I think India is going to be a very interesting market. And the same with the Middle East, actually. So obviously Saudi Arabia, UAE. We don't really talk a lot about it, but I think there's a lot of movement that's going to happen there as well.
So I was gonna say maybe a fun exercise to do is like, what are the benefits to each of those markets? Like we talked a lot about countries, and people are like, oh yeah, countries like India, that's great. Like benefits, like what are our like knowledgeable insights and takeaways we can take? Like if this is my brand, I really need to start putting some either money, resources, or just time into researching about these places. Can we break that down real quick? Like those top 4 or so?
Yeah. So, let me give you the framework in terms of how we think about it, because this applies to other marketplaces that you'd be looking at as well. The first 2 really important metrics are supply and demand, right? Sounds like basic, right? But don't be fooled by just the size of the marketplace, right? The size of the marketplace and how many people shop there and the growth certainly is important, but you've got to put that alongside how many people are actually selling on that marketplace. And what we're finding is where we see our clients really outperform and do well is where that ratio works in their favor, right? So in other words, there's strong growth, big marketplace, but the amount of sellers on there, as maybe a ratio analysis compared to say North America or other places, looks very favorable. I called it like there's more fish food to go around, right? So if you think about, sorry, let me just finish the frame. The third one is obviously around, what's your average price points and what's your, what is the willingness to pay? So take something like Indonesia or India, right? Massive markets, billions of people, and really at the start of, e-commerce, adoption there, right? So, whereas North America is fairly mature, there's a lot of just macro growth that's going to happen in those markets. The amount of sellers there, certainly sellers are not yet as sophisticated that, they're still, growing in that space. So I think there's a real opportunity in terms of those 2 equations really work in your favor. You do have to look at average price points. So typically in those markets, things are sold, at lower price points. So you may have to adopt a different product sourcing strategy to what you may employ in the US in order to be successful.
Interesting.
So yeah, and look, I think in terms of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia obviously is quite a big country. UAE not so much, but I look at those more as portals to the wider Middle East, right?
Right, because people buy and sell, as you know, we talked about this on a webinar the other week. Is people are buying outside of marketplaces, and not just I'm in Australia, I'm only buying in Australia in Amazon or .au. I could be buying in New Zealand, or I can be buying out of China. I can be buying out of wherever that might be. So there is lots of commerce that's happening in different countries and getting fulfilled in that outside that country as well.
Yeah, spot on.
So is that something that, you said they're almost like hubs, right? We would call them like a hub of where most opportunity happens, and people aren't thinking of it that way. They're looking at, hey, where's money being spent? And that's in the United States. We love spending our money. We don't like saving it. We like to spend it on things like the next gadget or gizmo, or and buying things. And like, although 2020 showed us that e-commerce is no longer just no longer a commodity or a flash in the pan or anything like that, it's a necessity now. A lot of people had to rely on it for some things like groceries and whatnot. Where's the world at right now in each of these marketplaces? Is it where the United States is? Is it like, hey, it's a necessity because of what we're seeing even still today? Do you think that's going to really ramp up things as well?
I think, look, each market is different. So certainly, China, very well developed. North America, very well developed. I would say most other markets, Europe is quite developed as well. But take something like Australia or even Southeast Asia or the Middle East. 15 years ago, I lived in the middle of London, and I ordered more things online back then than what I do now, right? So, certainly it's taking time. There's most other international markets. Certainly, if you're looking from a North American perspective and you're used to, Amazon Prime and shopping that way, I would say most other international markets have not yet reached that level of maturity, probably with the exception of China. The other thing I would say is, a lot of markets, in Australia is a great example of that. We haven't yet solved the whole kind of, how do you get all your everyday needs and buy those online, right? Particularly when it comes to online grocery shopping, fresh fruit and veg, and those sorts of products. That offer is still underdeveloped. Most of the e-commerce transactions is still around, electronics, homewares, kitchenwares, and the like. Very little pantry, and by that I mean sort of long life products that sort of you can ship in an ambient way. Certainly growing, but the fresh offer is still quite undeveloped. So I think there's still lots of headroom left in a lot of markets outside the United States.
So when people use tools like you guys, the insights you're providing, is it more than just tapping into those markets? What other insights could they potentially pull that might be not where they can get other places? Is it just the holistic nature of that marketplace in general? Is it like keyword research or like a Helium 10 or a tool that you can find around the world? Like, what are those other tools that they can maybe tap into with like a Merchant Spring?
Yeah, so we're trying to solve a number of pain points. So the first pain point, as I mentioned already, was just to cut out admin time where you're not adding any value, you're not doing anything that's going to make your sales better. That's the first bit. The second bit that we do is, so let's say a lot of our typical customer in North America might be on Amazon, US, Walmart, eBay, have a Shopify store, and then be on Amazon in the UK as well. Simple example. We pull everything together so you can see your total business. But what we also do is all the reports, whether it be sales insights, down to sales by category or sales by product, pricing insights, marketing insights, or operational insights, and expand on those. We make them, we pull them together in an homogeneous way. So really what that means, if I'm looking at my sales by product report for Amazon UK, it looks the same as my sales by product report for Shopify in North America, right? So there's not like, I'm now on this back end or that back end. My head's hurting. What's going on? So we pull everything together. And then the next thing that we do is we provide a whole series of insights that, you could get, say, from Amazon Seller Central. You just have to download a whole bunch of reports, do a series of VLOOKUPs, hope for the best that you don't make any errors, and 3 hours later you may have the same report. But things like quickly see sales by brand, sales by sales by category, sales by products grouped together, your buy box trend, and what's the who are you competing with? Lots of insights that are not easily accessible. And then we go one step further and we say, right, here's an issue. Your ACOS on this campaign is 35%. It's too high. Fix that. We might say, look, these are 5 categories. 4 of those, your sales are up 80% on last week, but there's one category that's in massive decline. What's going on? Fix that. So what we try and do is sort of take a torch and go, right, you've got an issue here, you've got an opportunity there, you've got a thing there. Go and have a look, because if you fix that, you will drive your sales and you will grow this week.
Interesting. Is that for someone who might ask a question, is this something that you can manage all in this platform? Like, although it's telling me this, can I fix it in your system and it talk to that specific marketplace? Or do you have to actually log in holistically into that portal and then make those changes?
Currently, about half the things you can do within our platform. So you want to change your buy box pricing, you can do that in our platform. You're working on eBay item specifics, for example, and they're not completed, you can fix that in our platform. But yeah, we're adding more and more sort of action features as well. So right now, as a good example, we provide full drill down capability into your Amazon PPC campaigns, including sponsored brand video. But we don't allow you to stop, start, add keywords, change your bid strategy, for example. That's coming, probably in about 6 weeks' time. So sure, we're always adding more actions. But our main point is just to help you understand your business better. And then if we can save you more time by not have you log on to the back of eBay or Shopify or Amazon will help you save some time.
Interesting. I mean, I keep saying interesting because it's a solution that I think a lot of people take components of each, right? They'll take like, I'll only work on Amazon and maybe do a little bit of everything, or just on Shopify. All those points of data and resources, how often is that getting refreshed to somebody? Is it like daily? Is it hourly? Is it real time? Because that takes a lot of computing power, data, insights, resources, all that fun stuff. So how's that speaking to me as a seller? Because most of the time I need stuff real time, and I need to fix it quickly.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. So look, it depends on the type of information we're talking about. So orders are accurate up to sort of about the 15-minute mark. So every 15 minutes, we will poll Amazon and get new orders in. So your sales data should only ever be out of date, no more than 15 minutes. Buy box data, interestingly, Amazon will push any change to your buy box straight into our platform. So that is literally, we've actually measured this. It's between 20 and 30 seconds that you're updated on that. And there are other things such as, say product information, where we're getting more detailed attribute information about certain products. Those types of informations we only get daily. And part of that is, just behind the scenes, and this sort of drives our dev team crazy most days, is just doing the dancing act and working around Amazon's or eBay's, for that matter, like API throttling limitations. You can only make so many calls an hour on certain things. So we've learned how to dance around that and make sure that sellers get what they need as quickly as possible.
Awesome. And when just before we kind of hop on to other kinds of conversations, just giving a shout out to people who are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. What's up, Lisa? Hey, shouting out to both myself and Paul. And then Francois actually asked a question via Facebook. And again, for just shouting out to everyone who is watching live and wants to ask a question about holistic marketplaces growing into specific categories or countries, I should say. We can ask those as well, and more than happy to kind of give our insights with Paul. But Francois asks, does Merchant Spring cater to certain sized e-com seller? And I think we somewhat talked about in terms of how many locales that they're selling in. Does that mean financially they have to do a certain threshold in terms of volume as well?
No, there's no.
Would you say?
Yeah, sure. There's no threshold. And I think if your sales are so low, then you're probably working out whether I should be on marketplaces at all. So if you're happy with your marketplace operation, we're probably a good fit, except if you're only running at one single store. Openly, if you're just running, say, one Amazon store, I don't think you'll get enough value out of our tool. And I would love to, there's some, we all know them, right? There's some great Amazon tools, and I'm happy to sort of recommend on that front. But as soon as you're selling two or more, and the more, the more is better, then I think you'll find there's real value in using our tool. So we have, probably the smallest seller will have 2 or 3 stores, maybe cross-platform, maybe cross-border. Our largest customer right now has over 180 different Amazon stores connected to a single dashboard. And wow. Looking to bring on another 100. So, and we do everything in between. I would say the average is probably something like 12 for sellers, or maybe 8 to 12. On the agency front is anywhere between 20 and the figure I mentioned before. So,
very cool. Maybe shifting gears a little bit. When you're talking about this as a seller perspective, that's one thing. When you take it to the next level and go to an enterprise level, when I say enterprise, meaning like an agency or an aggregator or a business out there, if they're listening, how we've had them on the show before, they are dealing with hundreds of brands, thousands of products, if not hundreds of thousands of products. 2-part question for you. One, good thing for the Amazon or e-commerce community, businesses like this existing. And then 2, how would you bring value to, if they're listening, and this is almost like not a pitch, but like and they need a solution to manage thousands upon thousands of SKUs and growing their business on a very holistic approach. What are you telling them in terms of like the tools and resources they have available to make their jobs a lot easier?
Yeah, sure. No, great question. I think if I get your first question right, is there a role for, say, full service marketplace agencies and FBAs investors in this ecosystem? Look, to me, absolutely. Because I think marketplaces offer a fantastic opportunity to expand your e-commerce sales exponentially. And especially I think where agencies, like the business we start, are very helpful is if you're dealing with existing brands who are very used to, like, maybe bricks and mortar retail. They may just be used to running their Shopify site or their WooCommerce site or whatever that might be. But being an expert on Amazon is a massive learning curve. So it's always good to kind of hire experts. Otherwise, as you know, Ryan, like mistakes on Amazon can be very, very, very costly. Right?
Yes.
Interesting. I remember talking a lot about, like, I used to spend, like, people get the idea of driving sales, but I used to spend a lot of time just explaining this concept, what is seller health on Amazon and why is it so important and why does Amazon get upset if you ship orders late? Concepts like that. If you're not in a marketplace world and you're just used to running your own store, a lot of those kind of some of my customers got very upset. It's like, my product, why is Amazon like that? That's just the way it is. If you want to be successful, you need expertise in that. So I think there's definitely a massive role for agencies, and really working with specialized partners on that front. In terms of sort of, if I speak to agencies and what I call FBA investors directly, and actually we have many of them are frequent users of our platform. The big pitch or so what for agencies and investors is the ability to let's say you're an agency, or let me take a real life example. FBA investor over 20. They've already made about 20 acquisitions in Europe. They've raised a lot of money and they're pretty good at deal making, right? And it's the same with Threshold. Obviously, raised lots of money. They've just acquired their 100th store. They're really good at doing deals, acquiring stores. But then you've got those stores, and guess what? That money that you just used to buy those stores, that's not your money. That's the investor's money. And they expect you to take that store and take it to the next level so we can sell it in a future date and make it really, 5x return, right? So then the big question becomes, I'm sitting on these 20 stores, 50 stores. I bought them. I'm feeling pretty happy. But how do I now manage those in a really efficient way? Amazon is complex. So our prop is really simple, which is all of these stores connect them to a single dashboard. So you can see in real time what parts of your investment portfolio is working well and not working well. And again, we're using the same logic around, putting a spotlight on the stores are not working well. Why are they not working well? What do you need to do about that? Is it sales related? Is it operations related? Is it seller health related? Again, providing some real shortcuts to A, providing overall portfolio performance, and B, allowing their operations team to really focus on sales driving activity, which is just like agencies and individual marketplace sellers. They're just as interested in that topic. So,
What about like other places where commerce is happening, or I say online, social media platforms? I think a lot of people agree that purchasing and finding either listings through social media, whether it's a Facebook, an Instagram, even audio firms such as like Clubhouse, if people are coming in through different forms of are you providing any sort of data analytics, holistic reporting in terms of they can come and buy on marketplace, not just on marketplaces like on social media, but then also if trackable nature, if there's traffic that's coming from these resources, like through these sources of traffic, is that another insight you can flip onto a customer and say, hey, you got a spike in TikTok and they're all going to Amazon because you were featured on TikTok influencer. Those are things that you can constantly reach out and find quicker than just looking at numbers and you're like, what the hell happened? And you have no idea where it all came from. Is that something you guys help service and look into?
Yeah, to a very limited extent. I'll be transparent here. We are keeping a very close eye on Facebook and what's Facebook doing in this whole marketplace game. That's certainly one we're watching quite actively. Right now, probably for the eBay platform, we do provide some traffic analysis and insights there, and it allows you to see what traffic came external to the platform versus what came external. So we do a little bit of that. but openly, we haven't yet completely ventured into that space. Would love to, obviously. A lot of people are asking also, you connected my Shopify store. When can I connect Google Shopping, right? Because then you can see everything together. And now I can start. What's really interesting until now, I can start comparing profitability. Now I've got this particular product, and I'm selling it on Shopify, on Amazon, and maybe on Walmart. Show me the sales comparison, show me the rate of sale now, but also right after selling fees, advertising, fulfillment fees, actually, where am I making money? Right? I think that is the million-dollar question that we want to answer for clients, so they can make better decisions in terms of where do you put your working capital, right, and where do you put your energies and effort, so that ultimately the only reason we're talking about this and sellers are listening is that number that gets deposited in your bank account, right, every fortnight. That's how do we maximize for that through a multi-marketplace strategy.
Or if you're in PingPong's case, you can get it deposited whenever you feel like it. Doesn't have to be every 14 days. You can hold on to it whenever you want. So
there you go.
Anyways, I'm just going to say that right there. For conversion reasons, right? You may not want to have like 1,000 euros hitting your bank account, converting that right now. You might want to hold on to it. Anyways,
fair enough.
Sign up for a free account today, everyone. Check out below. So Paul, like you guys are a year into this. You've been really kind of finagling with the solution, right? Is that fair to say? Like been active, been live, working with customers. Is that the time frame typically?
The platform is 2 years old, and we launched it to external customers. So broadly speaking, we used it and really kicked the tires on it internally ourselves for about a year, and then last year we opened it up to, it was I think September last year, late August, we opened it up to the broader seller community and agency community. Interesting.
So I say interesting, and I use that phrase a lot. The question I kind of like fear asking, but I'm going to be brave enough. What is the one thing that you still struggle with and you're still banging your head on in terms of, I can't figure out this problem? If you're going to be real with our listeners, what's the one problem that you guys are still trying to figure out and it just hasn't yielded an answer?
There's lots of. I think the one that I don't yet have, like a lot of times it's just about it's about development priorities and what you do first, right? But there's one thing that I think we don't have a technical answer to yet. Although someone, the guys at Buyboxer gave me some great tips last week. So kudos to Scott and the team there. But how do we get business performance report data out of Amazon, right? So one of the challenges you've got with Amazon, unlike some other marketplaces, is you cannot get organic traffic data, conversion data via API. Right? So. But this is super interesting to know, right? Sellers want to know it. I want to know it. That is the one thing. We get it for PPC, but for organic listings, I would love.
And for more simplistic reasons, this is just someone browsing, no sort of clickable ad, nothing. They're just landing and making a purchase. You have no idea in terms of impression numbers or in terms of like clicks, no conversions, and then just straight up conversions through organic. That's correct. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they do that, and you think they do that? Why? I'm gonna set you up on a T. Why does Amazon do that?
It's a good question, right?
Because everyone else does it in theory, right? All other marketplaces do it. Why doesn't Amazon?
Let me kind of answer it in a really roundabout way, and I apologize up front. You look at, from our tool point of view, you look at Amazon's APIs, right? And there's the MWS APIs, which is the marketplace web services, and actually they've kudos to them. They've upgraded to the selling partner APIs last year, and it's been really great. Definitely a step on. And then you've got your advertising APIs. If you ask my dev team, what APIs do you love the most, right? They will say advertising. Like the advertising APIs are so smooth, it works perfectly. The documentation matches what you get back. It's perfect. Part of that, look, I wouldn't use the word deliberate. I guess I just have. But clearly, advertising is big business for Amazon, right? So,
sure.
And they're actively encouraging people to build up platforms to do advertising capability. I think there's still part of it that says, look, that they'd like to keep some goodies up their sleeves so as to encourage customers still to occasionally check into Seller Central. I think that's the case. It could also be as simple as it's just not a development priority for them. So yeah, it's
we'll go with the first answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you don't want to give away all the secrets and in the kitchen. You want to say like, hey, it's that extra special seasoning that makes it taste so good, right? It's the secret sauce, if you will, of what makes them so powerful. That being said, who's catching up quicker? You have this holistic view, like you have a big scope that you're looking at. You've probably seen over the past 2+ years or so doing this. Who's catching up and closing that gap? Maybe not just on dev, but like in terms of like making it easier for a seller to start selling on their platform and, can make a percentage or like 10 points of their business on that one platform, or even more so. Who's catching up?
Look, I would say, first of all, it feels like the rate of innovation and the tools that are being offered to sellers is increasing. And I think part of that is because the competition between marketplaces to attract high quality sellers is increasing. Look, I would have to say eBay right now is moving the fastest.
Really?
But I would put that in the context of, probably many, many years of complete, again, let's not try and be harsh. These are all our friends. But, a serious underinvestment in the back-end functionality for sellers, right?
Which is fair. It's fair to say, and I'm not criticize. It's just to say, compared apples to oranges, one's going to taste sweeter than the other. So
I would certainly not be saying, look, eBay's now got ahead of everyone. Far from it. But they have done a lot of catch up, right? The tools they've got now, even just in terms of basic traffic information, listing quality tools, things have just gone a little bit smoother, and they just removed a bunch of pain points. And you can really see they've put a big focus on that. So when it comes to like velocity in the last 12 months or so, I would have to certainly have to give it to eBay on that front. But Amazon never stops, right? Every week I log on to Seller Central, I see something new, right? So Amazon is known for innovation, and I don't know if they still do this, but this idea that they do like 12 product releases a day. Obviously some of them are really small, but they are.
Their buyer app just changed their UI, and I thought it was even smoother than what is done before. It's almost like easier. Like I'll give my insight. Like it's easier to return, to check out your order, to see all these different placements. I say it's been highlighted more in terms of sponsored displayed ads instead of organic listings. I think there's a lot in terms of the UI happening on the mobile side that's constantly changing. And like you said, it's continuously moving. I'm connected with a business development resource over at Amazon who's been there for 3.5 years is what he said. And he's moved on to a quote special project. Wasn't even told what it was. Moved over to that division. Won't say his name, but he said like, it's going to be about a couple of years or a year or two, and then release this project he didn't even know he was working on until he gets there. And then they're already like full-fledged moving forward. So again, innovation is going to continue to happen and develop. Outside of like you guys, where's innovation happening in the e-commerce in Amazon or, eco's sphere of marketplaces? Where's innovation happening? Is it a company? Is it a service? Where's innovation happening, do you think, outside of you guys?
Yeah.
And don't say PingPong because like I'm not doing that for namesake.
The only innovation is in the payment space, right?
It's obvious. Like I'm not going to say the obvious answer, but in your context, where do you think innovation continues to happen, or is happening?
Yeah, look, it's happening on a number of fronts. I was talking to one of our customers in Phoenix, Arizona this morning. He was, talking about, there seems to be a whole next generation of, sort of Amazon research tools that are popping up, on the scene. The one he mentioned was like just one dime. I haven't actually checked it out, so this is not a plug, but
just one dime and oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on his name. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
So they're certainly on my kind of list to check out. And actually, every Thursday in our office, the CTO, my co-founder, and I have a show and tell session, and we look at things that we found during the course of the week. Other parts of the Amazon ecosystem say, right, this is interesting. That's interesting. I like how they're doing that. So there's a bit of that. I also see people really investing a lot more heavy on content itself on Amazon. It's just even just in the service provider space. Being a lot more niche around, I just do Amazon video, or I just do Amazon brand pages, or so, specialization seems to really be happening as well.
Thank you, Lisa. You took the name out of my mouth. Seth Neep, yep.
Look, the other thing that's obviously interesting from a sort of macro point of view is that a lot of big bricks and mortar retailers are getting into this marketplace game, right? And it's been happening for a few years. And you've got people like, obviously in the US, you've seen that for a while. We're hearing a lot of, I guess what you call it, like, a lot of positive noise around, Target and what's Target's doing with Target Plus in the US, and that's certainly on our list. But also, places like, or businesses like Miracle, who are essentially a marketplace plugin provider. It's almost like, plug and play, bolted onto your own website. It's not as simple as that. These are expensive solutions, but the amount of marketplaces, their model is tee up with a retailer, like typically a well-known mass market retailer, leverage their e-commerce asset. Typically these guys are already in the top 10 e-commerce sites for a particular market, and then just bolt on marketplace functionality. We've seen that here in Europe, in Australia. We've seen them in Europe, North America, and those guys are also really rolling out marketplaces, and then as a result, marketplace options really, really quickly for sellers. So there's another big trend that we see, and we think will continue for the foreseeable future.
Is there a country that, besides, I know you mentioned India, is there other countries that you're like on your radar, like invest heavily in? Like, for example, it was announced today, I think on PR Wire, or I say today, yesterday. God, I love saying that. It never gets old. I think it was Thrasio, again, a big number that they're investing in Japan. I think $250 million to acquire businesses in Japan, which everyone knows that is the third largest marketplace in terms of visibility or eyeballs that reach Amazon, but also it's split pretty down the middle with Rakuten. I think Rakuten's still number one.
Yep.
Is that a marketplace on your guys' radar, or any other countries that might be underserved that you mentioned?
Yeah. Look, Japan is on our radar, but we consider it to be a fairly mature market. And it's fairly, one of the countries. What creates a lot of interest on our part in order to take a focus is growth, but also the ability to do cross-border trade. Japan itself is quite a closed country, so it's predominantly local buyers there. And of course, there is the language, the language requirements here, which creates some barriers. But as you correctly point out, it is large, and we do support it from our tool point of view. I think we are keeping a really close eye on Rakuten. You mentioned them. A bit sad to see that they announced it's sort of pulling out of the US and most of Europe, and they seem to be sort of consolidating back into Japan. If they hadn't done that, we probably would have built a Rakuten connector by now, because I think they're a big brand there. But look, the other places that are really interesting for us is we're keeping a close eye on South America, right?
Right.
It's got this whole continent where you really got in Mercado Libre like sort of running,
that's it,
dominating the place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Amazon is in Brazil, but it just feels like a territory where we're going to see a lot more evolution and innovation there. And then there are some other places in Southeast Asia. I've mentioned some of them before. Some of them are just absolutely massive, but some other markets like Korea, and to a lesser extent Taiwan, they are quite interesting to me because they don't share the characteristics of the rest of Southeast Asia or even China. Like they seem to have 4 or 5 big marketplaces that are like completely local, right? So no one has really managed to sort of get in there. For example, Shopee is not in Korea, Lazada is not in Korea. There's all these local ones. I think eBay has some presence through an acquisition many years ago. but it's almost like these are parallel universes, right? And that to me makes it very interesting. Certainly someone like Korea. I think our research, I'm just looking at our numbers here. We did a big research project, something like, 500,000 marketplace sellers, selling across, Coupon, We Make Price, and a bunch of other marketplaces that, most of us probably never heard of. Very interesting. Not a place I would suggest you start, your first international market, by the way, but I think useful to keep an eye on.
Yeah, in just the research I was doing in terms of like global market value, if you combine Southeast Asia in terms of its quadrants, like all those different ones you add in, Singapore, you add in, I think Indonesia, into that sector, you talk about the fourth largest GMV in the entire world behind, I want to say, United States, China, and maybe India, or maybe just a part of Europe. I want to say Western Europe. So you talk about a really possibly large opportunity, just connecting it all piece by piece. It hasn't been figured out yet. So I think that's something I've heard, as once that figures out, like Amazon logistically figures out how to get goods from one to the other and kind of like connected that area of the world, you're going to really find this opportunity to hit billions of people pretty quickly, and then a large, buying power as well. I would love to have you on, Paul. I know you got other things, and people are yelling in your background. They're probably doing deals with like other marketplaces and whatnot. But before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, how can people learn more about Merchant Spring, touch base with you, utilize your tool, however that might be? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, look, the best way to do it is just head to our website, merchantspring.io. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial, no credit card required. We really want to work with sellers and agencies and get them to really, like we almost challenge them to say, connect your stores and really kick the tires, right? Put our tool to your paces, and you'll very quickly realize how much time you're saving, and how the new insights are helping you to drive your sales. So I guess just a challenge to anyone out there who's listening: if you are selling on 2 or 3 marketplaces or more, it can be up to 180, as I mentioned before. Go and check us out, set up a free trial, and if you've got specific requirements, you want to talk about something specifically, feel free to just send me a direct message via the LinkedIn inbox, and I'll get back to you too.
Awesome. I love that. And everyone, again, if you're watching online, checked out and put that in to the show notes in the comment section, also in the show notes of our podcast for download here in the near future. Go ahead and check out merchantspring.io today. Paul, thank you so much for hopping on today, man. It's always a pleasure talking with you. We have our own project we're working on every other 2 weeks, talking about going into different marketplaces on top of like a couple other partners of ours that we're working with. So I'm really excited to be doing that with you and the other 2 businesses, Novaland and VAT Global. So check us out on that as well. Is there anything else you want to add before we cap off today? My tomorrow, your yesterday?
Look, I just want to say thank you, Ryan. And can I just say the weather tomorrow for you anyway is going to be cloudy and rain by the looks of it. So
man, that's what it was like today. It sucked today, but it was warm. That's all I care about. It's turning your winter, correct? Is that how this works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's getting warmer. So I will take any degree higher than it was yesterday. I'm all about it. So, but yeah, you guys are staying safe. Everything good in Australia? Good. You guys are family happy, healthy, good to go? Staying safe?
No, we're all good. We're all good. So thank you, man.
Wait until you can travel again, right?
Yeah, that's it. We're getting to know a lot of our backyard, right? Traveling around the state, all these places you've heard about for years but never actually visited. Now is the time, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, stay safe. Continue to innovate. I appreciate your time here on the show. Thank you so much for your time again. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Ryan.
Appreciate it. And again, that was Paul from merchantspring.io. Again, that is his website, merchantspring.io. Merchant Spring is an omni-channel resource that will help you be able to get into different countries and marketplaces all in one tool. So definitely check that out. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us throughout this entire episode of Crossover Commerce. I appreciate you guys tuning in, putting your questions, your comments, your concerns, your thoughts. Appreciate it all. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you loved what we had to hear. Give us your comments and thoughts of how we can improve this show. But again, we go live about 4 to 5 times per week. constant information I'm throwing your way to make sure you are optimized in your business, no matter if you're a beginner or if you are taking over the globe one brand at a time, one country at a time, one marketplace at a time. I'm Ryan Kramer. This is my show, Crossover Commerce. Thanks for tuning in, and check us out next time. Again, tomorrow we'll be going live early in the AM here in the United States. Check us out. I have Matt from PPC Entourage. It's going to be his first time on a podcast, so I'm going to just grill him all the information, squeeze all the information I can out of him about content creation and social media for Amazon sellers. Don't want to miss that. Go ahead and tune in next time. Again, episode 80 tomorrow, live here on Crossover Commerce. Take care, everyone.